Hey, Doug, thanks for taking a few minutes to take a look at this proposal. So, what I'd like to do is just walk you through how I came to the figures in the spreadsheet so that it's easier to understand our thought process. So, our nonprofit has been operating for 6 years, but we've been officially a nonprofit for the last year. What we've tried to do each year is focus on developing new skills in the kids, and I've developed a comprehensive curriculum that goes from kindergarten, first grade, all the way through 12th grade. I've tried to articulate very specifically in that progression the leadership, management, design, programming, fabrication, and so on skills that the kids can expect to develop at each level, and how mentors can help draw that out of the kids to help them really achieve their potential. One of the things I've observed looking at other teams working together is that often kids get pigeonholed into one role or another on their team, and they're not able to participate in the full experience. So one of the things that we've done differently with my team is that every kid has been put in a position to program, to build, to design, so that they're rounded students. And I took some of that idea from Suzuki Music, thinking that I'm going to be with these kids for a long time, so I want them to develop a comprehensive set. So like Suzuki produces a musician, we want to produce engineers that can solve problems. So that being said, the flyby that I sent to you about a week ago had partitions separating the teams. And those divisions had chairs and tables and so on. So all of those costs would be in the movable shared space tab. So the whiteboards would act as double duty. The kids can write on them, and they can be a partition between teams. The junior FLL level doesn't need tables and chairs. They're better off building on the floor. Inevitably, smaller kids spill their Legos, and the lower they are to the ground when they spill, the less difficult it is to find them. At the FLL level, folding tables, folding chairs becomes important. There are two teams working simultaneously. Each team has 6 kids. There are 3 pairs, so each pair has their own table. Generally speaking, for workflow, one of the things that I've liked a lot is having work groups. So the 3 groups would be completely independent from each other, so they can solve individual missions that are different, or they could work on one mission and compare which solution was the best. This keeps kids working the entire time they're at practice. It keeps them engaged and excited and builds ownership. And it's something that I've really benefited from, which is why my teams have generally been capped at 6. There are extra folding chairs for the coaches to sit with them, and some field tables. At the FTC level, it's again the same type of a situation. It's a little more expensive because the equipment is a little more expensive. It's a little bigger. It's made out of metal. The only things here that might not be things that you'd thought about already was the saw stop table saw, which is considered state of the art in terms of safety. If a finger touches the blade while the blade's in operation, the blade is stopped. There's a mechanism that basically fires a bar that stops the blade right away, so you can't get cut using this table saw. Relative to other table saws, it's very expensive. The large 3D printer, I think, could be a game changer for FTC teams, because it enables them to print much bigger than most traditional printers would print. That being said, having a fine scale, small 3D printer is valuable for doing things like printing gears and printing connectors. Lockers can be valuable for storing the kids' jackets and boots and clothes when they come in from the outside. And I've really enjoyed in the past using a smart board, helping groups of kids learn to collaboratively program. So, for example, if the kids were doing line following, you might want to have all the kids together looking at a more complicated program so that they don't get in arguments over what they're talking about. Oftentimes, when a group of kids is sitting around a small screen, they can get sidetracked because they can't see everything at the same time because someone's blocking the view or somebody touched the wrong thing. So a smart board for collaborative programming is pretty powerful. And I think the example that comes to point is doing line following. And I've used products like this with my teams in the past. So the total cost would be a little over $20,000 for all of that. Certainly, it would be better to start small and build up than to not start at all. At the junior FLL level, so everything for all of the teams is divided up based on a working group of 2 and generally on a cap of 6 per team. So this $907 covers all of the durable equipment that two kids would share over the 3 years that they're doing junior FLL together. So that cost spread over 3 years would be $151 per kid. And the advantage to that is that if the nonprofit can purchase, or the STEAMSpace can help us manage this, to purchase this equipment ahead of time, the individual families aren't bearing the full burden of the cost of the materials, which is attractive too, because we know that retention on the teams isn't 100%. So some kids will come in and they'll leave, and the new kids will come in, and this makes it easier to be seamless as that happens. The consumable cost per team member would be $76. There are loads of things that the kids do every single year that burns through materials but makes the kids feel like superstars. As an example, business cards. When the kids are at a makerspace or presenting in a maker fair and they can hand out a business card to someone, they just feel so fancy. Likewise, and this is especially true for kids at the junior FL level, they may not be able to design things on the computer, but they can do things by hand. So they could design their team logo, scan it, print it, and then iron it on a t-shirt, and they feel like rock stars. So in all, it would be around $230 per participant per season for junior FLL to have them fully equipped and ready to go. At the FLL level, things get a little more expensive. One of the things that I had wanted to do with this very purposeful curriculum is all of the kids learn to use pneumatics. All of the kids use to learn differentials. They learn to use single and double bevel gears, which wouldn't be possible if they stuck with the base kit, because in many cases there's not enough of those resources to fully realize the ideas the kids might have. So in this case, having a computer at the FLL level is also critical. That makes it so that every kid is able to program. So the total cost per kit would be around $2,600, and again, that's split between two kids. And then in this case, it's spread over 3 years. Even though the kids are in FLL for 6 years, the cost is spread over 3 because most of the Lego materials wear out over time. Things like the brick, the motors burn out with some regularity. And then many of the consumable costs are similar. You just see that the registration fees go up. At the FTC level, there's the biggest rise in total costs. So again, these are equipment per partner so that you can have independent working groups. So on a typical build, you might have a group working on a chassis, you might have a group working on a linear lift, you might have a group working on a sweeper and a hopper. If the team wanted to approach this problem that way, what it meant is that each group would have the materials they needed to work on that project independent from their teammates. Additionally, because they each have computers and they've all been trained in programming, they can do all of the independent testing of the parts that they've developed so that when they integrate it together, they each have deeper ownership. The consumable costs here are really just increased because the cost for participation. So it's almost $1,000 between the field kit and the registration fees. So that brings the annual cost per kid to just under $1,000. And this is divided over 4 years, the thinking that most of these items will last that time period. The only material really that won't last 4 years is the phones. And the phones could last that long, but FTC has been changing over the phones they've used. So we've done FTC 3 years. We've had 3 different microcontrollers for the robot. And I don't know if that's going to change. That's just been based on our experiences. And to cap as well, these costs here and these costs here are based on our experiences running teams for the past 6 years, FTC for 3 years. So in summary, we think that the space costs to be fully equipped to be around $21,000. The participation fees at each level would get increasingly more expensive, but well within what many families spend for activities out of the gate. And these are all based on no cost for the space rental and no cost for coaching. These are just the durable material costs and the consumable material costs. Doug, I can't thank you so much can't thank you enough rather for giving me this opportunity to kind of share some of these ideas with you. And I'm hoping that this could be a transformative experience. I'm so excited thinking about a space where, a kindergartner or first grader can look at a kid in high school and say, wow, I'm going to be able to build a robot like that someday. And then to have that be a normal part of their culture, whereas one group of kids graduates and moves on, the next group comes in, it creates kind of a siphon pulling them through. I just think it would be incredible to imagine what problems the kids could fix growing up in that type of environment. So again, thank you so much. I'm going to send this document along to you so you can take a closer look at it. And feel free to email me or call me if you have any questions. Again, thanks again.